Wellness for Wellness Foundation, and I'm so excited to kick off our Wellness Wednesday series with you tonight with Joe Cross. You guys know Joe from Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead 1 and 2 and the kids menu. Joe the Juicer. I don't think anybody drinks a green juice without thinking of Joe Cross. And I bet he's got one. I had a feeling. I had a feeling. So we're going to have a great conversation tonight. We know that all of you are at home just like we are. Joe's in Australia. I'm in the States. And we're going to talk tonight about how we can stay healthy and balanced through this time and navigate this crazy time and maybe even thrive, maybe even be able to invest in our wellness while we're at home right now so that we can come out of this healthier and better than ever. So I'm going to get started and pitch it over to my buddy Joe and ask you, Joe, how are things in Australia right now?
Oh, well, first of all, hi, Jen. Great to see you looking so well there in Pennsylvania. I am in Sydney, Australia. I'm in a part of Sydney which is called Palm Beach. So anybody watching over there in America who wants to know where I am, they just got to Google Palm Beach, Sydney, and you'll see it's the most northern suburb of Sydney. And
oh no, Joe just disappeared. Okay, guys, be patient. We just had a technical glitch and I lost Joe and now he's back. So hang on.
Can you hear me, Jen?
Yep, you're back.
That's sorry. Weird. I didn't touch anything. It just disappeared. So
it's been very glitchy the last few days. So
yeah. So anyway, I was just saying that I'm in the northern part of Sydney in a place called Palm Beach, and it is the morning time here. It's 9 a.m. I know it's in the evening over there, but that's where I am. And Jen, I think that the question was, how am I handling all this right now over here? Look, I think that we're very fortunate here in Australia. We don't have nearly the amount of incidence of COVID-19 cases and the percentage or the number of passings away of people that other countries, well, that like the United States has and the UK has, which is mainly my audience that I talk to. So, you know, we're very fortunate down here. We are practicing social distance. The economy is obviously taking the tank like it is everywhere else. But at least from a fear factor point of view, we are not suffering the heartbreak and the pain and the fear, if you like. You know, you walk around my neighborhood and people are doing their social distance, but we only have 6,000 cases, or call it 7,000 now because I'm rounding up in Australia, and the number of dead is somewhere under 70, and the number of people in ICU is under 100 in the whole country, a country of 28 million people. And I know that where the Wellness Foundation has its roots and its origins is Suffolk County, which is, for anyone else who doesn't know where that is, that's kind of like the whole of Long Island at the end, sort of, where would you say, Jen, from Riverhead or just a little bit west of that, all the way out to Montauk?
Right, all the way up, with the very eastern end of Long Island, what people know as the Hamptons.
There's like 5 or 6 times just more cases there than there are in the whole of my country. So I understand that it's a very different environment here than it is where you are, Jen. And obviously where I live in Los Angeles, the people that work for me there are telling me that every time they go outside, they're wearing masks. So I think everyone is experiencing this in a different way. And I'm blessed and fortunate to be in Australia where it's not as severe, but I'm also, my heart and my thoughts and my feelings go out to everybody over there and all my friends and family. When I call them family, I mean like people like you are family to me. That sort of it's very painful to watch. But I know we're going to talk about some positive things tonight and what we can do. But I think it's important to lay that out at the outset.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the focus really tonight, we want to help you guys talk about how we can thrive through this and how we can keep the most positive outlook through it. But in no way, as Joe said, do we want to diminish the fact that so many people are suffering and grieving and going through such a difficult time on so many levels right now. And we hope we can bring a little positivity into your life every week with Wellness Wednesday. So I'm excited we get to do this. We were scheduled to do this last Wednesday and we had technical glitches. So we ended up moving it to this week. But interestingly, Joe, last Wednesday when we were scheduled to do this talk, in my Facebook memories, what came up was that it was exactly 7 years ago, last Wednesday, that you came out to East Hampton to film with Wellness Foundation.
For the first time.
Yeah.
So I think those of you that are watching that don't know about Wellness Foundation, I think it's probably worth it, Jen, just to spend a couple of minutes on talking about this incredible foundation that I am so fortunate to be the chairman of now. The founder of the foundation and the leader, the visionary, is an incredible gentleman by the name of Doug Mercer. And for anybody who wants to see Doug or know who Doug is, you've only got to look at my kids menu movie to see. We feature Doug. There's a great conversation between Doug and I as we walk outside on the beautiful grass of Long Island, of East Hampton, where at the time Doug lived with his beautiful wife, Pat. And basically, Doug and Pat have been incredible in their generosity to the foundation, and starting it from 15 years ago. And so Jen reached out to me after the movie had come, and I came out and did some screenings, and we've been very close ever since. Doug is like family to me, and Michelle, who runs the foundation, and Jen, and Molly, there's just Sam, there's a whole bunch of just great people that are involved in this foundation. And you know, it really has been ahead of its time. But before I talk anymore, maybe, Jen, you can just give like a few minutes background to anyone watching who doesn't know about the Wellness Foundation before we get into the meat of our conversation, or should I say the plants of our conversation.
Yes, sure, I'd be happy to. So I've been with Wellness Foundation for 15 years, almost 15 years, just shy of that, almost since the time we started. Doug is really an extraordinary human being, because Doug was in his 70s when he started Wellness Foundation, and he originally had gone on his own wellness journey and wanted to prevent chronic disease that had run in his family. And so he changed to a plant-based lifestyle and educated himself and empowered himself, and decided that he wanted to go forward and share that with his community, which is a pretty selfless thing. And at the time, 15 years ago, there weren't a lot of books yet about plant-based nutrition. There certainly wasn't the explosion that we've seen with this topic that there is now. And so he was way ahead of the curve. And Doug and I joke around a lot that when we had our first wellness circles, we would just pray that somebody would come and want to hear about plant-based eating. And now people are knocking down the door. So it's a good problem to have. But we build all of our programs on what we call the 4 pillars of wellness, which are plant-based nutrition, exercise, stress management, and social connection. And I think those 4 things are probably never more important than they are right now in the situation that we're living in, to prevent and reverse disease and to protect our health and our mental and physical health as well. And we do programs for kids and adults. So our kids program is called W Kids. That was in the kids menu. And we've helped 20,000 kids on the East End of Long Island. We go into schools with our curriculum, and we teach a 6-week program that teaches kids all about mindfulness and healthy eating and exercise. And we invite parents to come into the classroom, which is somewhat different from a lot of programs. We feel like kids don't do the grocery shopping and the cooking generally. So if we don't reach the parents, then the message falls short. So we invite them to come in, and we teach families how to cook budget-friendly, healthy meals. And we offer a certification program so people anywhere can get certified to become W Kids coaches and teach it in their community. And then our adult program is called Wellness Challenge 360. And it's a 7-week program that we do live and in person in our community. And we transition people to plant-based diet and really help them learn the lifestyle based on the 4 pillars of wellness. And we've had thousands and thousands of people go through that program as well. So it's such gratifying work, because
incredible. It really is. It really is an incredible thing what has started out there from basically Doug and Pat. You know, one thing reading in a newspaper. I won't spoil the story. Go and watch the kids menu, and you'll see we've got the whole story. We've got everyone involved. It's a great recap of how Doug got started. Yeah. And it's just a great honor to be the chairman of an incredible foundation. But like anything at this time, we really believe that what we are doing at the Wellness Foundation and what Doug started 15 years ago, for those people that have been following these guidelines, that have been living this, I truly believe that they are really grateful right now for the Wellness Foundation as we go into this pandemic, where essentially those people that have the a stronger immune system, they're not immune to it. Like, they're not like, that's probably using a pun there. They're not like, okay, because I've got a great immune system, I'm not going to get sick. But they're just less likely to, and if they do get sick, they've got a stronger fighting chance. So I think that I'm sure there's a lot of people that are very grateful for the work the foundation has done as we are in this pandemic right now.
Yeah, I think particularly people who suffered from chronic disease before they started taking our programs, like diabetes, hypertension, those sorts of things. We know those underlying conditions increase our, ability to fight this virus. So I think that definitely helps stack the cards in our favor and can help anybody.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So, Joe, I would love to talk about, one thing I don't know if people know about you, and the time I've known you for all these years, you're one of the most positive people I know, but I think a lot of that is because you are a person of action, like more so than just about anybody I know. You don't just sort of sit back and wait for things to happen, you make things happen. So I'm curious, with your own habits, like what are you doing right now? If you had to say like your top 5 things that you're doing every day to help you stay balanced mentally, emotionally, physically through this, what are you doing?
Okay, well, that's a good question, Jen. Let me just probably start before I give you these detail. I'd say there's an overall view I have, which is I know that this will pass. I know that there's going to be a time in the future when there will either be a treatment or a vaccine, and COVID-19 will be a conversation. Remember when? I've been coining the phrase with my friends BV and AV, before virus and after virus, and it's kind of like, oh, that was so BV, and this is so AV, and so I know that in my mind, the way that I outlook and I categorize things and the way I view things is that I know this will pass, and so knowing that there is going to be this light at the end of the tunnel is something that I hook my North Star to, and I just go, okay, well, eventually this is going to pass. And so, when I look at it that way, I also then think about all of these people that every day are given diagnosis from their doctors that sometimes are terminal and that won't pass, and that what they are going through on an internal level. And I always have done this in my whole life, Jen. I've always thought that there's someone else in the world worse off than me, and that I should not position my thinking based only on my circle of experience, and that there's other people that are getting news that is always worse than what I am dealing with. And I think that's an interesting way for all of us to frame things. Yeah. And so therefore, to frame what is happening here in a position that this is going to pass, this is not a life sentence that we've got right now in terms of our restrictions. Certainly, as we talked about before, I don't want to discount. I know people are getting very sick. They're having unfortunate losses in family, and death is occurring. I get that, but I'm trying to project this from most of us, from the majority of people's outlook and where we're going. So I do hang on to that. I am conscious that I might get sick and I might get COVID-19, particularly. That's something in my mind that I'm prepared for. If I get it, I'm not going to panic. I will just then apply my principles of just following what my doctor says here in Sydney, and I will go through what I need to do, and I'll fight the battle. I've been watching Chris Cuomo, who has been doing that on CNN, and Chris, and we, of course, his wife Christine's a friend of the foundation, and so I just take a little bit what he has said about this idea to fight, and you just got to not give up. So that's probably the overall view of a big picture, Michelle. But in terms of what I'm doing right now on a daily basis, what am I doing today, and what did I do yesterday, and what am I going to do tomorrow? So I would start with sleep. And I know it might sound boring, but the older you get, the more you love yourself. and sleep is something that is so important to us, and particularly at this moment in time, because not only is it an incredible immune, is it incredibly good for our immune system and an incredible support to our immunity, that getting a very good, decent night's sleep. But I think it's also incredibly good for our stress levels, which are obviously all running at a very high level right now, and our adrenals are probably, working overtime. So I think that the sleep part, to me, and I talk about that first because I truly believe that the sleep one is actually the most important thing that I am focused on right now. And so what does that mean to me? That means having a very consistent go to bed and get up. It's about having a routine. Now, sometimes I can't avoid board calls that I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning for in Sydney when it's New York time, which was today, but that's okay. There are just times when you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I'm going to bed at 11 p.m. and I'm waking up at about 7:30. So I'm actually, because I go to bed at 11, I don't fall asleep straight away at 11. I go to bed at 11. I usually fall asleep by about 11:30. So I'm sort of sleeping 11:30 to 7:30. And then I am getting a solid 8 hours. And I've managed to do that pretty much. Maybe 2 or 3 days haven't gone that way, but for 21 days, I've managed to achieve 8 hours. So that's an important thing for me that I take a lot of. I've also taken afternoon naps, not as many, maybe 3 or 4 times in the 21 days since I've been back in Australia, but I've taken afternoon naps when needed. And I think that's important. So I would really stress how important sleep is.
Yeah.
The second thing that I put in my category is, what are you putting into your body? Like, remind me to have a drink of my green juice. What is it that you are consuming? Now, I understand in these times, and I totally get the idea of some people. I'm one of these people. When I'm stressed, I eat. I know there are people out there that when they're stressed, they don't eat. I wish I was one of them. Could somehow someone strike me with a bolt of lightning and I'd be one of those people? But I'm not. I am one of those people that when I'm stressed, I go for the food. Okay. So I have to be very aware, for someone like me in these times, that I've got to be very conscious that I don't fall into the trap of, oh, it's all over, stress, I'm allowed to have that, and that. So what I do is I implement kind of like a policy, and sort of say, all right, well, how am I going to start my day? What am I going to have during the day? Now, I love ice cream. Anyone who follows me knows I love ice cream. So I've allowed myself to have ice cream over these 21 days, but I am not having ice cream every day, and I'm not having ice cream every second day, but I'm enjoying my ice cream. But what I am doing every day is I'm making sure I have juice or a smoothie. Generally, it's both. In fact, it's been both every day, but I'm having fresh, whole juice from plants. I'm having smoothies where I am putting in plant-based milk. Generally, it's an almond or a pecan or a cashew or a Brazil nut, which I make myself. And also the almond milk I buy, but the other ones I make myself. Mm-hmm. And I use those in my smoothies with a frozen banana, with some spinach, with raspberries frozen or blueberries frozen. And I haven't had my smoothie yet today. It's 9:20 in the morning here. I've been up since 5:30 because of my call this morning. So I'm been awake now for 4 hours, and this is my third green juice for the day. So I haven't had anything else to eat. Oh, I had an orange. Apologies. I peeled an orange and ate an orange about an hour ago. So I haven't had anything else, and I feel great. Once we're done with this call, I will probably go down and have a walk on the beach and a swim in the ocean, and then I'll go and get some food from the supermarket, make a salad, do something for lunch. And then generally in the nighttime, I'm kind of like not putting myself under massive pressure in the evenings. Mm-hmm. Last night I had beautiful roasted vegetables. I put them in a wrap, and I wrapped up I cooked a tortilla, and I put the roasted vegetables and I wrapped those up. And so I had 2 sort of roasted vegetable wraps. and that was my dinner last night. So that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to make sure I do. I'm not being 100% like Saint Joe, and I don't think that that's called for. Now, I'm going to be doing some juice fasting. I've done 2 or 3 days of just juice in the last 21 days because I just like doing that just for a clean out. But I think this is also a very good time for me to do some juice fasting as the weeks go by, because I really enjoy that. So that's on the eating and what I'm consuming. So I'm making sure that what I put in is very much on the plant-based side. And I'm also just watching that I don't go overboard on the chocolate like I did over in Easter and the ice cream. So I'm just making sure that that's minimized, but I'm not entirely taking it out of my existence, because I still enjoy the happiness of that little moment when I'm watching a TV program or something to enjoy my little bit of ice cream. It's only a little bit, Jen, but I enjoy it, right? So that's the second one, is the food side of things. Now, number 3, as you heard me talk about, is movement. It's really important to move, and it doesn't have to be much. I mean, honestly, if you came for a walk with me, I walk 3 miles. I don't walk 30 miles. I don't go in to the gym and, do these, crazy workouts where I can hardly get off the ground. I go and get the heart rate up and move for like 3 miles when I go for a walk, or when I go down the beach. It's a soft sand walk, so I don't need to walk that far. It's usually a mile because you're in the soft sand and it's a harder walk. Right. But it doesn't have to be much, and that's important because that helps our immune system, just that activity and movement. And if you are stuck in a home and you can't get to a beach, or you can't walk around your neighborhood, even if it's just getting up and down on your chair for 15 minutes, standing up, sitting down, standing up, and just getting that heart rate moving, it's important and valuable. The fourth thing I would say is management of stress. And this is really important because it's an incredibly stressful time right now. It's stressful for everybody, because when the economy shrinks like it is shrinking, everybody gets affected. And that's a stressful thing. When we take finances into play, that's a major factor for stress. So I totally understand that. And, honestly, I've lost money. I'm less than I was a month ago in terms of stresses. There's less money in my life because of this. So we're all dealing with this in this way, and it does become stressful. It is a stressful thing. So what I try to do is I try to carve out time for Joe time. Now, you can do meditation. There's plenty of apps you can download, and you can try this for 5, 10, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever you can allocate. But also, if you can't do that and you're not into that, and personally, I like what I'm about to share with you more. I like putting on music, and I like lying on the ground in the living room and just lying there with my eyes closed and play 4 or 5 songs that might go for 15 or 20 minutes, and purely don't let my mind go anywhere else. Just think about the music. Just think about my breathing. Think about that I'm lying in the ground and how my body is sinking into the floor. And I just try to maintain that while the music is going. And, that's something that I take solace in, and I really think that's helpful to me to be calm. And then, of course, other times I turn the music up really loud and dance around the house by myself. And, of course, I don't film that because no one's ever going to see that, Jen, because that's not a pretty sight. Because, I have no rhythm whatsoever.
Is it YouTube music? Is it YouTube music, Joe?
Yeah, YouTube music is good, but YouTube music is not really like the music you can dance around the house.
Yeah.
The YouTube music is usually when I'm doing gardening or cleaning the pool, or I go for a walk, or having the shower. But the music to dance around the house is more upbeat sort of music, and it's more the stuff that you just move around. I think that's really important, just to sort of do your own sort of dancing, and it's good for the heart, it's good for the mind. And then the last one, the fifth point, I would say, is being connected to friends. And I know this is one of the pillars from Wellness Foundation, but, this idea of being connected. So I'm calling lots of people. I'm speaking to my parents. I'm calling friends. I'm spending, honestly, when I first got back here, I was spending 12 hours a day talking on the phone or on Zoom or on FaceTime. I'm not doing that much now. I'm probably down to about 6 to 8 hours a day, but I was at 12. And so I'm still doing a lot of communicating, a lot of talking, a lot of interaction. My nephew, my sister's son, has moved into the house here with me. So I'm not by myself. I have his 23-year-old nephew, and he's studying medicine. He's upstairs studying now. And so it's good to have him around, and that's fun at night time to watch something together and cook dinner and so on. But during the day, we do our own thing. So the interaction with people, I think, is important. So I would, just go through your phone, look at a text message from 2 years ago, and say, oh, that person messaged you then. Maybe it's time for me to give them a call and to ring up and say hi.
Those are great. And I think especially too, I've been trying to think lately about reaching out to people who are alone, because there are a lot of people who are living alone right now. And so the social distancing can be really challenging, and just reaching out to somebody that maybe hasn't heard from somebody in a couple of days is a good thing too. It feels good to help somebody else while you're helping yourself.
I think it's very important, maybe not even for yourself, but for the other person.
Yeah, exactly.
You are talking to.
Yeah. Joe, I want to go back to your first thing that you do, which is sleep, because I think this is one of the most undervalued habits that we have. I think it's actually, like you said, it's almost more important than anything else we do, because if you don't get enough sleep, your body cannot function optimally. So I'm curious, do you turn off screens a certain amount of time before you go to bed, or have any kind of rituals that you do besides, just going to bed at the same time?
So you know what, I'm one of those. I mean, I wasn't blessed when it came to stress and not eating. I'm an eater, but I'm blessed in the sleep world. So what you don't get there, you get over here. So in the sleep world, I can read an article on my telephone, turn it off, and be asleep in 1 minute. So the blue light emitting from the screen, which is what Jen is referring to. That for some people, that blue light hits the brain and sort of tells the system, that the circadian rhythm system, that it's light outside. And this is best described by anyone who's gone camping. And I used to always wonder this, Jen. When I go camping, when I was in my teenage years, we'd go school camps, we'd go camping. I did some with my dad and some of his friends back in the day. I'd always be tired by an hour after sunset. Like, you'd have the fire going, and those days we didn't have phones, or you didn't even take torches, but we did have a torch, but you didn't turn them on unless you were wandering off to have a pee or something away from the campfire. But the reality is that you only had red light, which was the fire. You had that orange red light. And now we know that spectrum of light is the best light to see for those people who suffer from insomnia, that have trouble sleeping. So I always used to say, how come when I go camping at 8:30, I'm like dead to the world and want to sleep? Whereas when I was at home, I'd be up till midnight. And of course, these halogen lights that we all have, and this new technology of halogen lights, of phones, that blue light is a real detrimental problem for many people. I'm fortunate, Jen, I don't have that problem. So my habits for going to sleep are pretty simple. I will generally get into bed, and I will have my laptop with me, and I will watch a little bit of a YouTube something or other. I might watch like a clip. I get a lot of people sending me clips during the day of, hey, watch this, watch that. So generally at night, I'll scroll through my inbox and someone will send me something, and I'll watch like a funny thing for like 15 minutes or a 20-minute clip on this, or someone giving a TED talk, or some conversation between some two people, or I'll listen to a podcast or a New York Times. I know, not the New Yorker. There was a New Yorker article that was on the weekend that had an audio part. So I listened to that last night. That's what I did last night, was listening to sort of 20 minutes of the audio article. So I have the lights out. I have the laptop on by the side table, and I'm listening to the article. And when I feel like I'm drifting off, it's just a simple slam down at the top of the laptop, and it's quiet, and I go to sleep. So that's generally how I roll.
That's great. Thank you, Joe, because I think that is something a lot of people struggle with. And especially right now, I think a lot of people, what you said about sticking to a routine is really important. I'm talking to a lot of my friends who are saying they're staying up till all hours of the night, watching Netflix and stuff and then sleeping until noon, but that doesn't really set you up for a good health. I think it can kind of
No.
get you doing that all the time, really can mess you up.
Well, people that are not used to working from their home,
Yes.
that is kind of a bit of a bad habit to fall into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't have to get up and go to work. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can sleep in. I'll stay up at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a great book called Why We Sleep. And Why We Sleep, I'm just trying to remember the author right now. It'll come to me. Michael or anyway, Why We Sleep is the book, and it's Matthew. It's Professor Matthew. Anyway, once it comes, it'll come.
I'll Google it.
Pardon?
I'll Google
Yeah,
it.
you Google up while I talk about it. And I met Matthew in his college, Berkeley College there in San Francisco, and I spent 2 days with him talking about sleep. And his book is fabulous, Why We Sleep, and it was a real insight to this idea of how important 8 hours is versus 6 hours. And I really learned a lot as to why that last 2 hours of REM is so critical to our health. So I thought I was doing pretty good with like 6 hours of sleep. And I was sort of brought up on this idea of sleeping's for losers. You got to like work, as much as you can and have less sleep. The Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan model.
Yep.
Of less sleep, more work, and sleeping's for wimps. And it really turns out that his name is Matthew Walker, is his name.
Yeah, you're right.
I knew it would come to me. But Matthew Walker, in his book, Why We Sleep, he really talks. Michelle just said it down there, Matthew Walker. Thank you, Michelle. And Michelle, it came to me before me seeing that, just to make sure the brain was working. See, the green juice does work. Anyway, the point that Matthew was making is that extra 2 hours, you never get it back. You can't like make up sleep. So the idea of going to bed, I think, before midnight and getting that hour before midnight or half an hour, which is what I do. I go to bed at 11. I go to sleep at 11:30. I'm up at 7:30. I think that's a much better model than going to bed at 2 a.m. and getting up at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay? And don't ask me why. I think it has to do with the light, personally, but I don't know the answer. But I know that for me, I am in a better health state when I do that.
That's great. I think that's helpful for people to hear that. So we have a couple questions, Joe. One question that we had was, in your first film, you were doing your juice fast so that you could cure the chronic condition that you were living with, the urticaria. How is that? Have you been able to keep that in remission?
Yeah, no, I'm very lucky. I mean, I've been blessed. That was 13 years ago, Michelle, and I've had to have 3 courses of antibiotics in my life since. So the only time I've taken pills is 3 times. 2 of them were for tooth infections, which ended up resulting in root canal. That's from my days of having too much Coca-Cola, I think, as a kid. So I had 2 root canals and I needed the antibiotics for the infection.
Right.
And the other time was when I inhaled. I was having a salad. I mean, who would have thought a salad with olive oil and balsamic vinegar on lettuce could send me into a hospital? But just lettuce with olive oil and balsamic. I was having it in Barcelona in this hotel room. I had room service and I'd ordered it. And I did an involuntary hiccup at the same time that the salad, and I inhaled the oil.
What are the odds of this?
And it sent me into this sort of asthmatic. I'm not an asthmatic at all, but it sent me into this reaction that in my lungs had got oil. And that's not a good thing. So I had to go to the ER in Barcelona, believe it or not. That sort of, well, I didn't go that night. I couldn't lie down that night. I couldn't breathe if I lied. It was a terrible thing, but I had to have antibiotics for that. So what I'm trying to say is that not only has my illness never returned,
right,
but I think that the balance of produce that I have in my life now, plus these other practices that I've talked about that have become a mainstay have really helped me to stay in relatively healthy existence where I don't get the common cold, I don't get the flu, I don't suffer migraines, I don't have skin conditions of eczema or psoriasis, or I don't have any of those chronic illnesses. I don't take any medication for anything. I don't take pills. I'm 53 now. I'll be 54 in a month. So I'm not gonna be able to get an audition of Baywatch, Baywatch 4, running down the beach with the abs. Still working on that one, Jen. But to me, it's more about my vitality for life, my energy to do things, my ability to go for that 3-mile walk, my ability to go in the surf like I did yesterday and ride waves and deal with that, to go for a hike up a mountain, to be able to, when everything opens up, driving to the national parks of Yosemite and go on a 6-hour hike and be good and feel good about it. They're the things that I value, that I say is what is healthy. Staying out of doctor's surgery, staying productive, not feeling lousy. And by the way, I am not a saint. I don't live this 100% raw, pure, only this, and crosshairs on things. I don't live like that. There are certain things I don't do. I don't drink alcohol. Okay, I just don't drink alcohol. I don't drink soda. I don't drink Coca-Cola or any of that. I don't eat fast food. I don't go to McDonald's or Burger King or Popeyes or any of these places. I refuse to do that. So there are certain limitations I have. But, if I came over to your house tonight and you brought out a cake that's been in the generations of, recipes, you said, I want you to try this, banana cake or orange cake or carrot cake, I'm going to have a slice and maybe two, but I am going to enjoy that. And so that's how I've rolled. So far, it's worked for me. Maybe as I get into my 60s, I might have to alter my strategy or plan, but so far, so good. I go to the doctor twice a year for my checkup. I get my blood panel done every 6 months. I had my cardiac. It's called a calcium score that I had done just about 12 months ago for the heart, and it was 0% calcium in my valves. And so, I'm monitoring things. I had my first colonoscopy. That was an experience 2 months ago. So I encourage us to use the Western medicine that is there, that is so good at helping us to prevent and foresee things, whether it's scanning for breast cancer scannings, whether it's what I did with what I just call it, colonoscopy. These things are scanning, and I think they're good things to do. And I'm trying to stay away from doctors when I'm sick, but I'm trying to go to them while I'm healthy to maintain what I'm doing. It's part of my wellness program.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. We talk about that at Wellness Foundation. We teach the kids that we all have a wellness account. It's sort of, it's your health bank account. And every single thing that you do is either a deposit or a withdrawal. So you want to make sure at the end of the day that you made more deposits than withdrawals, and then you can afford to make a withdrawal with a piece of carrot cake or, skip a day of exercise. But you want to keep that balance. And it's more important than ever right now, I think, that we put that effort in every day to make sure that we get those deposits in and don't just numb out. One of the questions that we got was from Michael, and he wanted to know, I think he may be an ice cream lover as well. How do you sit down and have a little ice cream without wanting to eat the whole pint at one sitting?
It's a very good question. So what I do is I have them, I used to have a problem with the pint. So, Michael, I don't buy the pints anymore, right? I buy the individual ice cream on a stick. So it's probably, I don't know, it's probably a little block like that, and maybe that thick. So it just comes on a stick, and I just have it, maybe sort of 8:30 at night till 9 in that sort of little window when I'm watching something on TV. And it probably only lasts about 2 minutes, but it's a great 2 minutes. And it's one stick, and I don't need to go and have another one. And if I think about it that way, it's fun. I don't even know what it says on there in calories. I don't look at that. I just say that's a nice thing to have, and that's a treat. So I don't have two. I don't have three. I have one, and that's how having it pre-cut and ordained is the big difference. Because if I'm over there I've got the spoon and I've got the pint and I put out the 2 scoops, little thing in my head says, oh, 3 won't hurt you, Joe. Just have 3, So I avoid that conflict.
That's very smart. So one of our viewers wants to know about exercise, and it sounds like he's having a hard time staying motivated with exercise. And I think I'm hearing a lot of people say this, even though they maybe have more time at home right now that they could exercise, they're finding it hard to motivate. Do you ever have those days where you're just like, you don't have the get up and go do it, but what do you do to push yourself to do it?
Well, I'll be honest, probably 75% of the time I don't do it. Like, I just don't do it, like 75% of the time. But they don't come around that often, because once you get into a routine, it becomes something you look forward to doing. So for example, I had a call scheduled before this call for 1 hour. And because Jen and I were doing some issues with our testing here, that call, I had to minimize it to a 30-minute call, which is totally fine. But I had planned to do my walk while doing that call, because I knew that call was going to be an hour. That's with a work colleague. And he doesn't mind if he hears a little bit of breathlessness while I'm going up a hill. He doesn't care about that, because I'll either mute it and listen to him while he's talking if it's too much. But I will incorporate my walks with a conference call. So in that way, I actually think better. I respond better to the call because I'm moving and I'm active and I'm out there, and it makes the time go a lot quicker. And then I've kind of killed 2 birds with a 1 stone. So I've been able to do 2 things at once, where I'm not saying work. Now at 3 o'clock, now I have to go and do this. So I don't look at it in that way. When I was in LA, I had a trainer, so I would do the trainer 3 or 4 days a week, and I would always do the training 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. at night. I'm not a person to train in the mornings. The morning has to be voluntary, but the afternoon at 5 or 6 p.m., I enjoyed the heavy workout with the trainer, because then I came back, had a shower, and then I was able to make dinner or go to the market, buy dinner, whatever I was doing. So it was something to look forward to after the workout. So I think there's that's kind of the way that I play this. And I don't. One of the things which is a theme that you'll hear from me is I don't want people to put a lot of pressure on themselves. Now, this idea of love yourself and love your plants, is I talk about this all the time. And, we are our own worst enemies. The single worst person to your health, Jen, is you. Okay? No one else is more detrimental to your health than you. No one is more detrimental to my health than me. Okay? So we have to recognize that we are really our own worst enemies, and that we can be our best heroes and supporters. So we have to flip that concept, and that takes practice, and that means not listening to that little voice. That means giving yourself a break when you do fall, and when you get back up and dust yourself off, that you actually feel that it's okay to fail, because failure is normal. Failure is part of winning. Nobody wins all the time.
And it's how we learn. It's how we learn, by our failures, right?
And all those people in high office that think they win all the time, they really don't. You have a situation where it is really, I think part of this journey for anyone with wellness is to recognize that you are going to fall, you are going to slip. And it's how you get back up and how you get back on that really matters. And then also, that's a great example to others around you, because a lot of people ask me, how do I help this person or that person or my auntie or my mother or my son? I really think that leading by example is the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's the best way, because people see what you're doing, and sooner or later, I think people think, like, I want some of that. It's like the the scene in When Harry Met Sally. I want what she's having. They see that you're doing really well and they want to do well too. Yeah. What, Joe, one of our viewers wants to know, what is your favorite thing to make for dinner that's quick and easy and that they could maybe do that would be sort of budget friendly and easy to do?
Okay. So one of the things that I love the most is simply roasting vegetables, which takes about 1 hour. Okay.
Mhm.
And you've only got to turn them like 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
So that might be onions, sweet potato, pumpkin, carrots, zucchini. I love doing those sorts of sort of hearty vegetables and roasting those. Okay. And it serves as leftovers quite well too for the next day. So they're great cold, and you can either microwave them or have them cold. So I'm a big fan of the roast veggies. Then I have them two ways. You heard me talk about putting them in a tortilla wrap, which I love doing, and you can spice it up with a bit of chili. You can add things in if you like. You can add shrimp if you want to. You can, depending if you're only plant based, then you could grill some corn and then cut the corn off and put the corn in as well. So you can do that. Or most of the time, I don't do the tortilla one. What I do is I put it in a bowl with a whole lot of leafy greens, spinach, with avocado, and with sort of colder things. So I have sort of that mixture of both temperatures, and I will have it like mixed as a big salad. So they're kind of that I don't know the pricing of how much it is on that, but that's not an expensive sort of busting sort of meal, particularly if you buy your produce at a farmer's market or get it somewhere where it's not depends on how much you buy through your CSA or wherever. So that's kind of what I do on that front. If I'm going out or getting a takeaway, generally, there's a place where I lived in Los Angeles, which is my it's a quinoa. I haven't mastered quinoa yet in the kitchen, so I kind of use that when I'm doing that somewhere else. But there's a quinoa salad with avocado that I love, and I will eat that quinoa salad probably 4 nights or 3 nights of the week. And then my other great go-to meal is I'm a big rice fan. I love my rice. So rice, steamed rice, and those veggies is a really good meal as well. It depends how much carbs you want to have in your life.
Now, see, Joe, you missed breakfast because of our meetings and our Facebook Live, and I haven't had dinner, and you're making me very hungry right now.
Yeah, so I mean, but I think that I'm also a big soup fan. I think soup is amazing, right? So I think that soup is something that is also a big part, and you can use that in the blender, and you can make pumpkin soups. I think pumpkin soup is one of my favorite soups, and that's quite simple. And that's not difficult to make.
That's great. Anybody that needs recipes too, I know a lot of you are asking about that. So if you need recipes, if you go to Wellness Foundation's page, it's www.wfeh.org. You can go right to our website, and in our resource section, we have tons of plant-based recipes there for you. And we also have, if you go in our resource section, under the resource section, drop down to Healthy at Home. We have a whole page of resources to help support you through this crisis. So there are recipes, meditation, exercise videos, tip sheets, lots of great information about all the pillars of wellness that Joe was talking about. Joe, somebody wants to know, and I know you do green juice pretty much all the time, but they're wondering if
not all the time. Not all the time. I do red and purple and orange and yellow juices as well.
Gotcha. They're wondering if there's anything with this virus, is there anything specific you've been adding to your juices to help with immunity?
I've been pumping up the ginger and also the turmeric. So I've been doing a little bit more of ginger shots, and I like ginger and lemon shots. I don't like just ginger on its own. A little bit too much for me. It's like, it's like having a vodka shot in the old days when I used to drink alcohol. But I put ginger and lemon together, and I love that. But I've been pumping up more ginger, more turmeric.
Perfect. So Our friend Michelle has a great question, and one that I was going to ask you as well, so I'll ask you now. Some people are calling this quarantine period the great pause, a time to reflect and think about what you want to do differently when life resumes. Is there anything you'll take from this experience personally that you'd like to change going forward?
It's a good question from Michelle, and I would say, look, I think I mean, I'm always learning and always evolving, and I'm always coming forward. I probably think the Instagram lives I've been doing, I wasn't doing as much of those before this, where I was inviting community in and having just random people talk. I kind of thought about doing that while we're in this mode, just to, rather than answer questions, just to invite random people in, and it's been awesome. So that's probably something that community connection and being more accessible and available to my community, I'll probably take forward. Um, uh, you know, I'm a little bit fortunate in that my life was working at home anyway.
Yeah.
I did a lot of work from my desk, and I have a routine where I go from one room into another room. When I go to that room, I'm in a zone to work. Here in this house, it's kind of like the living area. That's my zone. So I am very much somebody that I think was well prepared for this kind of environment. My friends that were making jokes of me that, when I was in the 14-day quarantine, which is actually the real quarantine where I couldn't leave the house, that I was in my element because I was by myself and I was just working. And to be honest, the only thing that I was really missing was the ability to go for a walk.
Yeah.
I was happy otherwise. It was not a difficulty what I put myself through. So I don't think I need to take any of that with me, but certainly the interaction with others. What else can I take with me? Look, I think also the reaction to the people around me, and I'm learning more about human behavior. So I'm taking that with me, and how, how fear works and how information works, and how all of a sudden everybody's become an infectious disease expert around the world. Like everyone you talk to is understands everything about science, which I kind of think is fun. So it's I think that there's sort of some of the things that I would take forward.
Yeah, those are all great ones. I think it's, we have such an opportunity right now. I think, especially I think of it in the United States, we had so much dividedness in our country for the last couple of years, and people just being on opposite sides of things. And I think this virus is sort of an equal opportunity virus, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you have. You're susceptible. And so I think it's been a bit of an equalizer, and I hope that we can come out of it more of a collective heart than a fractured humanity that we went into this whole thing with, and we can be more conscious of other people, and the fact that there are a lot of people that aren't as lucky as we might be, and how we can help them and come out of it.
The United States is really to me at least, because I mean I love United States. I love the people. I don't love the country, because the country is like only the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in all the time I've spent there, in all my life, I've done so much business there. I've lived there, traveled across your great nation. It's very rare that I've met people that are not good people, that are not loving, caring, open, welcoming, friendly people. It's very rare. I mean, that you meet someone not like that. I know they exist and they've got their own issues, but 99 times out of 100, even 999 times out of 1,000, that's the sort of people you're going to meet, which really is a difference to what you see on television and what is projected by the either Washington or by media or whatever. It's I don't think I understand people are very divided. I see it more as people who live in cities and people who are in the rural areas, in terms of what their access to certain things is. And I totally understand that kind of a divide. We have that here in Australia as well. And there are different needs and different concerns and different requirements for someone who lives, say, in downtown, Los Angeles versus someone who lives in, in the 5 hours outside of Louisville in Kentucky. So I understand those differences. I totally get that. But I actually think that Americans are more similar on things than they actually think they are. I think that it's closer together than maybe what's portrayed. And I do understand that when it comes to politics, it's a divide. When it comes to religion, when it comes to those things that you're not supposed to talk about at dinner parties, I get that they're hot points. But I'm optimistic for the United States. But one thing I have noticed, which is really interesting with this pandemic, is you truly are the 50 United States of America, because you really are operating like 50 different countries. You are not operating like one country, which I think is a real eye-opener to a lot of people who don't understand that constitution of how that works, and that the governors of each state really are doing something different to a state that's next door. And so that's an interesting thing for foreigners to understand and to sort of look in and to see. And whether that's proving to be a positive thing with a pandemic for the United States with their constitution, or whether that's going to be something that is not so positive for a pandemic, remains to be seen. But I think that's kind of interesting to have that sort of viewpoint, because when you're an Australian, it's easy to look at America. So when I'm an Australian, it's easier for me to look at America than it is to look at my own country. It's because when you're in it, you're in it. But as you're outside it, you can take a view in, if that makes sense.
Yep, it totally makes sense. I think we have one of your rebooters who has a juicy question for you. So they're wondering, it's Rhonda, and she's wondering, is it normal to plateau on day 54? She hasn't lost any weight in 2 weeks.
So Rhonda, that is very normal, and it really does depend on where you are in the stage of your body. So the most important thing is this: the plateau is the weight loss. The plateau is not in your health regeneration. So I need you to disconnect the two. So you are, if you've gone 2 weeks with having juices, you are putting incredible amount of micronutrient value into your diet. So I guarantee you the regenerative part of your plan is still continuing. If you are plateauing yourself and you're on, I'm assuming you're going to do 60 days, Rhonda. If you've gone sideways for 2 weeks and you're just having juice, this is normal. This happens. We don't know why it happens. We actually don't know why it happens. But there can be a reasoning that your overall mass has reduced so much that the amount of calories you're taking in now, that your metabolic rate has balanced out and you're at an even level. So that means that when you start eating again, you're going to have to go very slowly to build up your capacity for protein and rebuild muscle and so forth going forward. That hopefully that the chronic illness or whatever you were trying to attack has been resolved, and that your health at day 54 must be firing. So that would be how I would answer that question for you, Rhonda.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. So we're almost at the end of our hour, and I can't remember, Joe, if I said this in the beginning, and I apologize if I didn't. I don't know if I said that Joe is the chairman of the board of Wellness Foundation, and we're so grateful to you for always being such a great supporter of the work that we do. Our whole team feels very blessed to have you.
It's a great team to be a part of. They're amazing people, and anyone who's come that hasn't known about Wellness Foundation, please follow them on Instagram, on Facebook, and I really encourage people to go to the website and take a look, because it's an incredible organization. And right now, like anything, we need money. So if anyone out there listening has deep pockets, we really do appreciate any donations, because like any foundation, we had our plans for our benefits and everything to do in the summer. We're all going to get together and raise money, but they're all on hold now. So we have to work out other ways to try and drive revenue into this very worthy cause to keep helping people lead a balanced and healthy life.
Right. Thank you so much, Joe. And like we said, there are great resources on our website. Just go to the resource section and drop down to the Healthy at Home tab, and that'll lead you to some great resources for you that hopefully will help you out. I want you to stay tuned for the next couple of weeks. We have some great speakers coming up next Wednesday at 8 p.m., which is a time difference from this week, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be interviewing Dr. Joel Furman, and Joel's got a vital message for us about strengthening our immunity through nutrition. So I hope you'll join us for that. And the week after that, we have Kathy Freston. So if you like us on Facebook and Instagram and follow us on our website, you'll get to see those reminders and you'll be able to see who our speakers are each week. So thank you, Joe, for spending this hour.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks everyone who followed out there. Appreciate it very much. And I just wish everyone they stay healthy, stay safe, stay vigilant, and of course, juice on.
Thank you, Joe. Take care, everybody. Good night.